Welcome everybody to another installment of Ops Unboxed, brought to you by RecruitmentOps and myself, Saeed Bohr, or Sai as I'm more commonly known. Today I've got Martin Wishart from Kyloe Partners here. This is the Ops Unboxed that goes alongside the Indie Opsy episode with Alex Roberts, which I recorded what feels like an eternity ago. You guys you guys who watch this can never tell the time difference between these things, but I recorded that a fair while ago. But so if you ever, alongside this, make sure you find time to go and have a listen to Alex Roberts' podcast as well. But yes, Martin, let's kick things off with an intro from you and what you do over at Kyloe.
Well, thank you very much. What do I do at Kyloe? So I as an introduction, I guess I've been here at Kyloe. I'm now in my 10th year. So I joined the business kind of 2016. I'm probably one of the first 10 or 12 people in Kyloe joined as the first product sales rep. And I can remember it very vividly for those of you listening who have spoken to me before. We were in a little kind of small room above the soap company across the street here, and we've very quickly expanded. So yeah, my role now is expanded into being the global product sales manager for Kyloe. So essentially that involves me leading the product sales team globally, as the title implies. So we've got people based in the UK, based in the US, and then between the team, we then cover over into APAC and Australia as well when time zones allow. Predominantly that's done by Courtney and our team. She's up in Montana, so get reasonable crossover at certain times in there. We've also got Josh, who's based here in the UK, focused on one of our products specifically in onboarding compliance. He's now moving into the Australian space as well. We're taking that product down there. And then we've just had a new person join called Kyle, who'll be based in London, which we're really excited about because that'll be a kind of first boots on the ground, if you will, product salesperson in London, kind of available to be in and around the Bullhorn office and, seeing customers and clients much more effectively. I'm based up here in Kyloe HQ, which is on the small island of Orkney, on the north coast of Scotland. For any of you that's interested, that's there's about 22,000 people here on the island. So I always kind of think of it visibly as a football stadium for anyone that's a football fan. That
Yeah.
That's barely filling a football stadium with the whole population of this island. So yeah. And then we've got another person on my team called Ben Fuller, who's based over in the US as well.
Nice. Nice global team. Do you know, interesting enough, I actually thought for some reason that Raymond was French before I actually met him. I thought Raymond was French. And then we met each other quite recently, and I obviously told him. I said, "Oh gosh, I'm surprised by your accent because I thought you were French." Awesome. And so for those that might not be aware of, the Bullhorn ecosystem and specifically Kyloe and how they fit in, can you tell us about what Kyloe do across the gamut of things? I know we're going to dive into some stuff today, but just as an overarching intro on the business.
Of course, yeah. You may have, obviously, Alex delve into a little bit more of his side of the fence, but essentially we began as the first SI partner in Bullhorn and kind of helping move clients onto Bullhorn from other platforms through migrations, and then flowed into doing custom work and helping them implement and train on Bullhorn's core products as well. And then kind of from that, we've adapted and brought our product suite. So that happened very quickly. So obviously the business began in 2015. I joined in 2016, and we already had some products that we were selling then. So today we have, it feels like lots of things, but actually it kind of all intertwines and kind of becomes the Kyloe Product Platform. So the kind of core products we have that people will be aware of and may see externally is Kyloe AwesomeDocs, which is a document management solution, which essentially gives the user in Bullhorn the ability to generate and create a document from any entity within the Bullhorn environment. And allows them actually to get an integration with Word within Bullhorn as well. So you can create documents brand new as a one-off, you can create packets of documents, and also you can edit your documents from the Bullhorn as well, and integration to DocuSign as well to help the e-signing. And of course, as everyone does, you can use AI within that, which we'll hopefully see a bit of soon. And then we have DataTools, which is a product in its own right. It's incredibly powerful in the sense it can help you find, manage, merge all your duplicate records across Bullhorn. candidate contacts companies, and the kind of real driver behind that power that it gives you is in data rules, which we'll touch on a little bit later on down the line. In essentially, it gives you access to perform mass change to your Bullhorn environment, either on a one-off or on an ongoing basis via a schedule. And within that, again, you can do little things like add notes from there. You can update credentials. You can perform AI updates at scale. You can do math, math function and everything. So it's a very clever, complicated, complex product, essentially allowing you to perform the work of a data engineer, if you will, without having to have the knowledge of how to write code and write SQL and do all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, nice. I mean, when I'm on agency side and people talk about bad data and wanting to do a data cleanup or some updating, that their brains automatically go to, well, firstly, they think it's going to cost an arm and a leg and a fortune, and they're going to have to go hire some Python developers or whatever it is internally to do it. Or they automatically go to offshore solutions where it's still people related. That's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I know. And the other couple of things that I mentioned too is that I mentioned Josh earlier. So we kind of into the middle of last year, we acquired an onboarding compliance solution. And essentially, we brought this in as a new solution in the Bullhorn marketplace, which we call Kyloe Connect. But this is actually a product that's 7-8 years old, if you will, and has been used by on Bullhorn for a specific client to do onboarding compliance for the past 7-8 years, right? And it's a very well tried and tested product. So we have our onboarding solution out there in the world right now. That's taken off really well in the UK. We've now moved it over to be available in Australia as well. And coming soon, we may also have a scheduling product as well. So there's lots of cool things happening, and we're it's a tricky time obviously as well for everyone in the industry, right? But it's quite exciting to have all these new things and us kind of adapting and going to other avenues and being able to offer, I guess, something new to the Bullhorn marketplace that it's there in areas, but not necessarily from a marketplace partner like ourselves who are core and dedicated to Bullhorn, dedicated to the recruitment industry. So we're pretty excited about that.
Nice. Before we dive into looking at some of the stuff you're going to show us today, and for everyone watching or listening, I have actually not seen these either myself. So this is a genuine first-time demo that folks are gonna experience and watch. What are your thoughts? Just as a side question, which I didn't prep you for at all, I'm just going to throw at you, is a lot of conversations I'm having at the moment with rec tech vendors is around, I guess, how quick and easy and they can leverage AI to come up with functionality features, new products, bolt-ons, etc. Are you experiencing that as well yourselves? Like, has the emergence of AI changed how you think about these things, how you approach these things?
Of course, yeah. It's I'm obviously not as close to the development side of what we're doing, how that's technically happening internally, but I know that we are, using AI to help us be more efficient in writing things and doing unit testing in the products, and all of that's becoming more efficient and faster for us. But absolutely, when we're thinking about what we're developing and what we are putting out to the client, we've got to be thinking at it from an AI lens as well, because what we have and what everyone is doing, right? Everyone's using AI in some way. But I think it's rare that everyone is using it actually within their core database. You've got clients and businesses who are using, whether it's a Copilot in Microsoft, whether it's a Claude, whether it's a ChatGPT or insert another one out there, but that's sitting over here outside of Bullhorn. And it's a case of, okay, to make this function correctly, I have to take the data from Bullhorn and put it in here. And that just becomes, unless it's all done correctly, that's a potential risk, right? So our kind of forefront of thinking method is always that Bullhorn's your database, that's your starting point and your finishing point. So we try and ingrain in the whole process and everything we do in there, so that when you're using our products, it might say Kyloe up here and it might have a different pink color, but it's inside Bullhorn and it feels and fits into that flow.
Yeah, nice. And that was probably the biggest eye opener for me when I was speaking to Alex about coming onto the pod, and he was saying, we've got these other, we've got our own products that you can deploy directly within your own instance of Bullhorn. There is no jumping out to log in elsewhere. There's no having a desktop application for something else. He said literally people won't even realize that they're doing it. I met with on the recruitment agency side, Mystery from QXI, formerly Montash, and they have started that ChatGPT dabbling and using that. And we actually, I think in the podcast, spoke about the fact that it's good, like it's good from an internal adoption mindset thinking process, but we still have that piece of, well, how do we get that now into Bullhorn? Now you got to lift and shift it essentially. And actually, do you go out and speak to a Kyloe and say, actually, we really want to invest in this function, this feature? Because I guess the more the agencies speak to you guys to say, this is what we need, this is what we want, the more you guys can point and direct your efforts.
Yeah, exactly. We take a lot of what we do is driven from the client feedback. We've been working in this space with Bullhorn for 10 years, as I mentioned. We've gathered up a lot of clients over that time, existing and past, and during these rollouts of new solutions, especially with our AI function, and also we've got a note-taking product. Both of those, we went through extensive kind of beta programs with a select group of customers that we trusted and kind of knew that we could kind of fail with them quite safely, and kind of it would be okay. But then also as part of that, we had others that we weren't as comfortable with. So we got that kind of good balance of feedback from our trusted and people we've known for a long time, and a sprinkling of completely new people to us that didn't necessarily know us too well. So it was a really good mix of feedback, which has helped mold the product but helped mold the products for us and what we've actually released.
Yeah, and that is super important. You can't just show things to people that like you or know you very well, because they'll always.
I know, but there's an element of, I think, being able to fail safely too. So if you have a trusted group of people that you can kind of work with really closely and say, look, hey, we're going to do this. It may very well fail, but let's kind of work with us to do that. And then you have your group as well that maybe gives feedback a little bit more brutally and isn't as patient as you need as well, right? You need to get both sides of the coin.
Yeah,
so it's
nice
learning curve for us. Yeah.
Okay, well let's dive in. Let's check out where are we going to start.
So what I kind of want to do today initially is I'm going to focus the kind of first part of this on AwesomeDocs, and I guess I would expect that if anyone's familiar with Kyloe that maybe they would have heard the word AwesomeDocs in the past, but just trying to kind of bring awareness that AwesomeDocs is now AI enabled, right? We have AI within AwesomeDocs as a lot of other solutions do as well. So just kind of bringing that to the forefront. And I just want to focus on kind of formatting a CV and what that looks like through our process, utilizing Word and AI. And then we'll move into some data enrichment stuff with DataTools. I'm assuming I just pushed this button at the bottom of the screen here that says...
Yeah, it's the one thing we didn't test before going live.
The one that's got a plus in it. Yeah, there we go. Let's see what screen comes up.
Yeah. I love the fact that you can, it's got the the Microsoft Word extension. That's very, very, very useful, because you do need to do stuff on the fly sometimes. And there's nothing worse than when you go in and you're like, it's so rigid that you have to use templates all the time. Sometimes you do need to be able to edit, amend, and move quickly.
Absolutely.
Or even as the ops person that might be responsible for all of the templates, it's like, it's nice to be able to just do it whilst you're in the platform.
Exactly. So am I sharing the right screen? You should say Bullhorn.
I can see it here. I'm just going to add it to the stage. We're good to go.
Cool. My viewing towards the camera angle may change slightly, so I have to look up to the screen now. So do forgive me if you're seeing more of my chin. So again, just to kind of set the scene a little bit here, and what I kind of mentioned this at the beginning is that AwesomeDocs is actually one of our oldest products in the suite, right? We've had this since I joined in 2016, and it began as something, and it's evolved and grown since then. But the kind of message always to portray back, I think, is that this is a product solution that gives the Bullhorn user the ability to generate a document from any entity within the Bullhorn environment. And that can draw data from fields, it can incorporate files into that template. Ultimately, to generate and create an output, the process for the user within the system should really be about clicking the mouse and then preview and view what you're doing in the at the end. So I'm going to run this process from the job record. You can run it from the candidate, of course, when it comes to the formatting of CVs, but my recommendation is to do it from the job. And the reason being is you get access to more information through the product. So with us being on the job record, you then have access to the candidate data, the job data, the company data, and the contact data.
Yeah.
So that when pulling together a CV, whether we're just pulling data from fields or using AI, which we are in this instance, you are then able to draw data in from all of those different areas, making it specific to the candidate, the company, and the contact. So kind of as we mentioned before, the product's in Bullhorn, right? So you just go to the action menu once you're ready. You choose the product from in here. Now, in the real world, as a client, you only have one option. You have many different options, as you can see, for regions, but you choose your one from the menu that you have. With AwesomeDocs, it's going to load up it's just going to authenticate, and then we'll load up the list of templates. So I'm going to create a new one. The template list here is completely configurable. It's unlimited. You can have as many documents in the product as you need. And from a configuration point of view as well, you can filter them so that they're only visible to certain user types and departments. So if your business with multi-brand, that can be segregated. So you're seeing only what you need to see at that point in time.
Nice. And I guess you can split between the recruiters and your ops people who might be doing all your compliance gathering. Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah. So different teams can see different things. And then as we're running it from the job, you then just pick the candidate you're working with at this time and continue. Now, because this is a CV that I'm creating using AI, it's going to take probably 20, 30 seconds or so to run. Because in the background, what's happening is we're compiling the template automatically there, applying all the branding we've applied, the formatting of the text. We're pulling data from Bullhorn Field, but then also as part of the CV formatting process, this one is going to incorporate 4 individual prompts. So what we've kind of experienced through our testing is that rather than saying to the model, hey model, here is a big dump of text, please reformat that into this specific way. That causes a challenge. So because we're using Word, we then say, okay, take in little bite-sized chunks. So this will, when I press preview now, it's going to open up into Word and you'll see the output. Obviously, it's on the other screen here. I'll come over in a second. Yeah. So here we have it. So we're in Word. You can obviously kind of edit, change, amend as you need. And this example does still have the candidate's information on it. Now, again, that's completely configurable in the template for you. But if you don't need it, and in this instance, you can also just delete it, right? You're in Word. You're in that familiar place that your team will know very well. But kind of as I was saying there, just as it was loading, the output of this will be consistent each time. But the output of this is generated not by just one big prompt to the model. It's 4 individual. So we've got one for the professional summary, we've got one for skills and qualification, another for work history, another for education. So you're going to take that into different chunks. And we've got some of our official Kyloe tartan on the bottom of here, just to present that as well.
Yeah, not French.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we're not a French company, we're a Scottish company, and we have an official tartan. So there's that as well. So yeah, it's just a CV at this point, right? But the point here is that this has been compiled, generated, and designed using AI prompts that the user or the Bullhorn user has access to build and change and edit as they need. And obviously we can help them with that as well.
Nice. And are there actions that you can do from here with the Kyloe extension buttons on the Word up there?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So this is actually if I click into this, it'll do its own thing just now, I'll just press it since you asked, right? But this is what we've added in here is a plugin, and these are for building and creating templates. Okay. So when you're building and creating a new template for AwesomeDocs, again, you're not in a new Kyloe world. You're doing that within Word. So you open up your document in Word, you then click that button that I pressed, you log in and authenticate to the Kyloe add-in, and you build and create your template in Word. And in that window, you'll have all the fields you can drag and drop across. There'll be a section to pull in specific AI prompts you might want in a section. So it's really kind of easy and user intuitive to just create and build and edit.
So the AI prompt piece, I'm doing some work with a search firm at the moment who are talking to me about how they present profiles, for example. So yeah. I think they do it to just be edgy and different, right? So they don't call them CVs or resumes, they call them talent profiles or something along the lines. They've created a really, really it's very good. It's good branding, good PR exercise good personal branding exercise from them as a business. And so what they actually currently they get Copilot, I think at the moment, to write the first summary section for them, and then the second section they manually format so that they have it in column view, and then they list the achievements in a different way. So actually they could configure the template in here and have the top section, they build their prompt, the same prompt that they're using in Copilot anyway. And if that prompt that they've got, they're feeding it call transcripts. So they feed it the internal interview transcript to then produce the write-up, the précis. So actually, if you had a pre-screen note type, for example, in Bullhorn, and that note type was in there, I guess you have access to it.
Absolutely. So if I go to the next step from here, I can take you I can take a peek behind the curtain, if you will, and show you how the prompts are built. So the kind of next thing from here is you press the save button in Word. So although we're in desktop Word, we're still connected to Bullhorn. So we press save, you then close this down, and then ultimately from here, you save it directly back to Bullhorn. And you save it as a Word, a PDF, or you can save it as both. Press the save button, and now you have all those files in Bullhorn ready to go. And running that process from the job, that then saves it on the candidate record and the job record. And then to kind of answer your point there, your question around the prompt design, again, you can access this all from within Bullhorn as well. You can get it added in the kind of menu over here on the left-hand side. But just for the purpose of this is your prompt manager, if you will, where you can build and design with prompts. And you'll see down the right-hand side, we have this integration section. So this tells me that these are prompts that are built only for AwesomeDocs. By clicking to this one here, essentially you've got your prompt name, you've got your action, and then in here is the kind of secret sauce, if you will. I'll scroll quickly through all this, but you get this is where you build and compile and create the kind of output and design of the prompt. And you can use HTML tags and design in there as well to ensure that when it flows through to the Word document in the end, it's structured correctly. It has the bullet points, the fonts are correct, all of that design's done. And then for your point there, very topically talking about call transcript, what we then have in the advanced section, this is where you decide what data you want to feed into the prompt from Bullhorn to make this uniquely yours. And up here is where you can pull in any field that you want from the connecting entities. We then have the option to pull in files and/or notes. So you can pull in file and note data at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's powerful. I mean, especially in a world where I think most recruiters either are or they certainly should be at some point this year working with a VoIP solution that's automatically transcribing and capturing notes directly into their CRM. So, I very commonly see the device and Bullhorn pairing when I'm on my travels. So actually, if you solve the problem of capturing the data and the information at the front end, because your recruiters are doing it anyway, and it's in Bullhorn, correct note type, then you can then leverage AwesomeDocs to potentially do all your spec profiling, your submission docs, cover sheets. Cover sheets, wow. Even when clients give you specific cover sheets, that is the most annoying thing, because you have one client wants it this way, another one wants it this way. But again, if they send it to you in Word, you would open it up in Word, use the AwesomeDocs template, right? And then fill it and then add it into your library straight away.
Exactly that, yeah. We've got the clients use that exact scenario. And again, those client-specific cover sheets and templates, that process is usually driven as a vacancy template. So they build it and create the vacancy. They create the template. They create a CV from there, and it's that client-specific documents are all in the drop-down ready to go.
Yeah, nice.
And just since you've mentioned it too, again, I'm quite happy to go a bit off piece here too. But you've mentioned the thing that note taking and transcription. So what we also have in here is a Kyloe Notetaker. So So this is currently connecting to scheduled Teams calls, ring over, 8x8 coming soon, and obviously as we evolve through, we'll be building in others. You can manually upload transcripts into here as well, but the idea with this is that it records the call, feeds it in here. You get the call and the transcript and all the data in here. Questions that are answered are all listed here with the questions and the answers on the right.
Nice.
You get a specific summary. All of this is then automatically added as a note into Bullhorn. And you can also as well from here, as you notice that it says saved fields to Bullhorn, is that if there are questions that you have mapped the answers back to dedicated fields in Bullhorn, at a click of a button, you can be enriching your database and updating fields directly from a conversation. And that works for both candidate and client calls.
Right. Okay. That's very cool. That's actually something that's coming up more and more and more. Is we know that there's a need to have accurate field data, and I know that there's lots of people debate about structured data versus unstructured data, what's going to be required or needed in an AI world and stuff. But I think today, and certainly for the next few quarters, we do need a level of structured data. So if I have a Teams call or I'm using one of the VoIP solutions that you just mentioned there, and I have the Kyloe Notetaker, let's use Teams just as an example. So I meet with a candidate because we do an internal screen to make sure they're good enough to go. Ask several questions around their skill set or where they're located, and if the where they live now field is mapped to the location field in Bullhorn. At the end of that call, if they have moved from Orkney to Paris, or probably the other way around, Paris to Orkney, it will pick that up here and allow you to save all changes.
Correct. Yeah. So you can, the kind of the goal here is that you have your call, you either move on to the next one without having to worry about all the data going in. Ultimately, we still want the user to cast an eye over it and make sure they're still getting the context of the call. Because I think there's a risk here as well with all this note taking and transcription, is that the consultant kind of misses the sentiment and the kind of the context of the call sometimes. So you don't want to just be that kind of process of call, transcript goes in, I move on. You still want to have that element of let's look at what happened on the call and make sure what is on here is correct. So everything that's in here, you see they can edit, they can change this if they need to, they can add additional context to it. There's also like a dedicated section here for them to put in any notes that they wanted. And then ultimately, once they've reviewed and said it, they can go save all changes and save the Bullhorn. And, so we still want to have that element of the human touch. I think that it's a bit risky removing that person completely.
Yeah, 100%. The questions piece there. So were those preset questions, for example, templated questions, or were they just questions that happened to be asked and the note taker recognized that it was a question and therefore
yes and no is the answer, is it's both. So you can have in the manager side of this, you can list out a bunch of questions that you look to get answered in a candidate call, and then a different set of questions you look to get answered in a client call. And it will look for those, but it will also pick up additional questions if they were asked. And I think what's cool with this is the world of AI, you don't have to ask the question kind of verbatim as it's written down. The product analyzes the transcript afterwards and says, hey, okay, here's the transcript. Do I have answers to these questions in it? And it's something we've worked really hard on, which is a challenge sometimes with generative AI, is to kind of stop it just making something up and stop trying to answer with an answer. So you can see there's two examples right there that says not found. So we've worked hard on the prompt to say, well, if there's nothing there, just give us nothing back. Don't make something up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I use ChatGPT quite a lot, and I am constantly, when I'm setting up projects, whenever I'm setting up a project now, in the instructions of the project and in the settings, I make sure I'm like, if you don't know, then just say you don't know. Wow, yeah, we weren't
trying to please. Just give me what I need.
Yeah. We weren't going to talk about the note taker, but that is quite useful. I mean, especially in the context of AwesomeDocs, because actually being able to pull from I've been banging on about this for the last, I feel like for the last 6 to 8 weeks, it's come up so many times, is I think the information and the data that you get from the phone calls that you are having, your recruiters are having with candidates and clients alike, I think that is the only proprietary data that we have these days, because ultimately everyone has access to LinkedIn, everyone's got the same job boards potentially, but actually the stuff that you discuss on that call that they tell you that's not on their CV, that can then go into a AwesomeDoc where you've written out a spec profile for them. That's where the money's at. That's why you're paying your recruiters to be on the phone every single day and every single week, etc. So to be able to use your note data, if you've got it connected from a call perspective through to your docs that you use thereafter to drive either BD or submissions, it's powerful.
Exactly. That's your edge, right? That's your it's often hidden away. It's maybe outside of Bullhorn even. Like a lot of these systems will transcribe your call, but not all of them are taking them into Bullhorn, which is why we're trying to offer something there as well.
Nice.
This does tie in quite nicely into what I was going to show you next with DataTools. Is what I want to focus on with that is how you can enrich your Bullhorn environment from within. So I think there's a big drive now with people trying to do data enrichment, and whether they're going to LinkedIn externally to find new things, or they're using products or services that may go externally to other places, let's say, and try and draw data back into Bullhorn. But actually, clients that we're dealing with have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions of candidate records, some of them, and quite often the data is there. It's just hidden. It's maybe in the CV somewhere, or it's in a field that isn't in the right place. So again, combining our DataTools product, which is up here, and if I just maybe go to the home page as a bit of a visual whilst I'm talking, the DataTools product itself is compiled with these three components. And just to give them a brief intro individually, the data cleaner part is the simplest part of the solution, and actually the first one that we created back in the beginning of 2016, actually, just with the GDPR legislation coming into the UK, it became apparent then that it was really difficult and a challenge for people on Bullhorn to identify records with missing information. Doing that negative search in Bullhorn was quite hard. I think it's better now, but the idea now is that this is a very easy product to click, find records with no files, with no data, with no phone numbers, people that haven't interacted with in a period of time, and the output from that is simply to give you a list. So I'll put a hot list back into Bullhorn. Maybe you use Bullhorn automation to do something with those people, you manage it internally, or you can actually start using that list in our data rules product as well to make changes. Duplicate is quite often the product that drives people here initially. Duplicate records are a problem everyone has, right? And I don't think anyone's figured the real secret sauce to plug the hole completely. They still come in, no matter how hard people try. So this will identify them. It gives you the chance to kind of review, and if you want to still manually merge, but you can merge up to 1,000 at a time at a click of a button.
Wow.
But on a schedule, we've increased that limit, so you can actually schedule it to run and do 2,500 per day, just on a schedule. And that's just your candidate entry I'm talking about. So you can, so it's a really powerful tool. If you come to us and you've got 10,000 duplicates, realistically that could be rectified to this pretty quickly. But then on an ongoing basis, having that running in the schedule, that's then plugging that hole that you're trying to plug anyway, which, as I said, it's not really getting plugged, is it? Quite often what happens is they do a one-time fix. Yeah. Then the circle goes back around. They're like, by the way, that problem we had 6 months ago, we're back here at the beginning of the problem again, So it kind of gives that ongoing fix as well.
That's duplicate records. I don't think it's ever going to. I don't know. It's never going to be a zero result. I think everyone's going to have it. Interestingly enough, there's quite a lot of there's some risk around like the duplicate data stuff. But we've got issues at the moment with another client that I'm working with, and they're not on Bullhorn, but we've got duplicate records, and actually the one that's caused the biggest headache this week just gone is a duplicate company record, and because the CRM is integrated to a timesheet middle office solution, it's duplicated the records there and then completely missed the person off the pay run, and it's like not paying your contractors is one surefire way of creating some bad press. Like, it's not good. So duplicate records, 100%. That is it's such a simple. It sounds like such a simple thing to solve. Can we talk a little bit about duplicate? Like, as in, how is it deduplicating? Is it looking at multiple points? Because
yeah,
sometimes,
I can show you. That's the best thing to do, I think. So dashboard opens up here. Obviously, this is just test data, so it's small amounts, but essentially the red number is identifying the number of duplicates on each entity. So with the 3,000 candidates, we've got 120 duplicate candidates here. This button takes you through to view the duplicates and what we found. But to answer your question, if I kind of back up and go into the settings, the kind of two core parts to focus on here is the duplicate weights, and then we've got the master identification. So the duplicate weights here essentially is the logic we've created to identify, well, how many duplicates do we have in the system? So we've created a threshold or a score of 5 that needs to be met before we identify as a duplicate. Because I think that it's quite dangerous for some clients to say, I only care about matching an email. That's not always accurate, and it causes issues, right? So we always recommend at a minimum you try and match on 2 pieces of data. But if we do that and say we're on a large database and it's still coming back with like tens of thousands of dupes, well, let's expand that further and let's try and match on 3 pieces of data. And that means that you're working with a core, really accurate data set. And then once those are out of the way, you can then change the weight values again. But it's quite simple that we need a score of 5. So in this instance here, if we only find a matching email, that's 3. Therefore, we would not consider that a duplicate. They need to have an email and a phone, or one of these in the same first and last name.
Got you.
And of course, we've got these standard fields, and you can go down here and pull in additional custom fields from your system. Or I say custom, I mean any other field that's on your record, right? They're just all listed here.
Yeah, nice. It's good to be able to have that flex, because if you work certain geographical locations, right? If you work certain markets, there are more common names that appear in certain markets and in certain areas, in certain countries, etc. So it is so important to be able to utilize multiple data points for deduping. Such a simple, it sounds like such a simple thing to solve, like I said before. But yeah, I can see why this drives a lot of people to you specifically for DataTools, I guess. Is there is what I was going to say there was there was a agency not long ago that submitted some tender docs on, they had to do like a count of people in their CRM, like that did certain things, and for a super niche skill set, they went back and they ran the search, and they went back and said that they've got I can't remember what it was, they said they got like 2,000 people that do this on their database or whatever, and then they won the work, and then they've gone to this 2,000, and then they were going to run a sequence campaign to these people to start getting them on the phone, etc. But the sequencing tool that they used did some deduping for them, and it turned out they didn't have 2,000. It was close to 1,300. And actually, it was because of a Chrome extension that 2 recruiters had been using that had worked there previously, that wasn't mapping things into the right place, so therefore created other records. Now you've told someone you've got 2,000 of these people when actually you've only got 1,300. That's a big drop in the total number of candidates you think you can go after. So another risk around duplicate records, which probably roll their eyes around, really. Yeah,
and it's a huge risk. And I guess the other part of this, just to touch on before we move on, is that identifying the duplicates is key, but arguably more important, and as part of that is let's identify the record within those groups we need to keep. So that's what master identification on the right hand side here is. So as well as identifying this, so we found 5 Martin Wisharts in the database. Which of those is the real one? So we then have this logic on the right hand side that you can drag and drop, you can interchange that you need, and then again down here, because this is a really important part, we've got up to 6 additional fields that you can add in here that you can help identify. And you mentioned something earlier about there's been an issue with a customer of yours you worked with on the company side, and that duplicate has been a scenario there. So I'm just going to talk that through with the combination of what we have here in DataTools. What we've done with customers in the past to kind of solve that is we update what we kind of call a flag field, right? So we can say that, for example, this is a company who you have worked with before, or this is a candidate you have placed before and paid before. And we can apply a flag to that field or field on that candidate record to ensure that maintains and stays as the core record when you're doing duplicate merges. so that, in that instance where there was 2 records of that same company, we could have identified those to this product by kind of flagging those accordingly.
Yeah. So the one that had all the previous placements running through it, that would have been the one that was flagged to say, this is the record you want to attach, because that's all the historic placement records you run. Yeah, got you. Yeah. Nice.
Awesome. I do love it when we go off on tangents. That's what happens on.
Well, I did say to everyone who's listening and watching, this is my first time seeing this stuff, so I'm gonna have more questions than I think I thought I would.
That's good. No, it's awesome, because that's kind of what happens in real life, right? And I'm gonna call them a demo. It kind of it often veers off and goes out here, and we've got to pull it back in. So it's all good with me. So yeah, the kind of next thing I want to touch on is going into data rules. So I'll just click into this and I'll just leave it on screen, and I'll show and run a couple of rules specifically. But if I drop this down as well, what's really, I guess, cool about this and what people need to understand is that this is a product that would give you access to essentially every entity in your Bullhorn environment to perform a change on its scale. So you can see up at the top here, we've got access to all of the core Bullhorn entities up at the top. The second line is all of the file attachment entities. And then you have your additional or sub entities, things like education, work history, tasks, notes are all available as well. And then if you do have any custom objects in your environment, we have access to them. And kind of as you start kind of navigating through the product, like if I just jump forward to the placement record and I want to build a new rule here, down the left-hand side of the screen is the criteria that you use to determine the records you want to update. So I can add as many things on the right-hand side. And what's important to note is these are all and. So it's if this criteria and this criteria is met, then the right-hand side will do these things. And you notice we've got multiple options here as well. So add an action is essentially just a standard function to go and pick a field you want to update. But because we're on the placement, you've got access to every placement field plus everything else that's connected and associated with that placement.
Yeah.
And not only can you say, I want to go and do this to the contact, you've got the different functions you can choose. So if you choose like just choose a text field, you've got all your different options you choose. But then when you start to do things like copy and move, it's a case of I can copy and move things between entities as well. So now I'm not only limited to saying, let's copy and move it from this field to that field in the contact, let's copy or move things from the contact to any of these other fields. So the kind of power that's available is very advanced. So you've got these things here. And the one I'm going to focus on in a couple of examples is the AI assist option. So this is where the Kyloe AI function comes into play. And as part of these scheduled rules that you can run. So you can either run them on a schedule or you can push a button and have this done as a one-off update. But as part of that scheduled rules you're running, you can also have AI working for you within that. And that's where I want to touch on the candidate side. Nice. And there's another option as well on the candidate side that I just want to flag as well, which I think is useful, is the add note option. So again, whilst the rule is running and it's completing, you could be updating fields in this place and that place. You could be adding credentials and credential requirements. You could be running AI prompts and adding notes on completion. So the volume of things you can be doing in a single rule is growing and growing.
Nice. I still think it's crazy. I think it's I think the real powerful thing that made me the real powerful bit that made me made my eyes open was the sheer volume of everything that you can have access to and look at from the top. Down to like the submissions and stuff, because like that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like I said, this was built kind of driven from our probably services side of the business initially and created into product from there, because we found ourselves repeating things over and over again for customers, right? So we're constantly, as part of the migration process, having to rewrite things or go to our engineers to say, can you do this? Can you, this client needs to reskill their Bullhorn database. These are their old skills. This is the new skills. Let's go do that. Now that's something you can just do in here yourself. Somebody like I could do it. You could do it. The operations manager could do it. The sales manager could do it. You don't have to be that person who is really tech-minded, provided you understand the Bullhorn environment and your field mappings and what's going to happen if you make this change. You obviously have to be a certain individual in the Bullhorn system to use this, but you don't have to be like really, really tech-minded or an engineer or a developer to utilize it and get the same output.
You know, there is as you were talking me through that, there's a Bullhorn customer actually in Essex. I will give you their name afterwards, who has this horrific problem at the moment of incorrectly coded people. Just completely, so they've absolutely bastardized it. So it's like different teams are doing it in different ways. There's no correlation, and it's just not purpose or serving up anything useful to them at the moment. They've designed a new one, but I think they were thinking about getting someone offshore to come in and do it. But actually, with DataTools, they could obviously do that element, but then also just have the ongoing scheduling stuff that we were talking about earlier to maintain the data quality and cleanliness.
Exactly. We have so again, I'll touch on a few different examples here, but just based on what you said there, just as an example tying to that, we've got a rule here, and it's relatively simple in its input and its output, but basically what this is happening is that based on someone's job title, let's go and categorize them accordingly. So if you've got a kind of understanding of your industry and the business you're working in, and you've got these 10 job titles, we should categorize those internally as this. That can just be logic you can apply here. And, you know, I can press play and I can run this right now. But what we would be doing in a real life scenario is saying, let's schedule this to run whenever, right? So you start to run, this could run every day, every hour, every 5 minutes. And the beauty with this product, I keep using the word schedule deliberately, is that it is truly a schedule. It doesn't have to wait for an event or a trigger. You just schedule it to run every time, well, within the 5 minutes or hour, whichever time you choose, daily, weekly, monthly. You know, it's all optional, but it will just come to life. If it finds something to do, it'll do it. If not, it will just go away and wait for its next time to come around.
Yeah, nice. Is that typically daily? Is that what you find people do then? They just try and have a daily sweep up, or do you think it's...
Yeah, it depends on the rule itself, right? Because there's some placement specific rules that people have running every 5 minutes as they want to capture something to happen. Like we've got a function in here to do placement commission splits, which will work for some customers. So they want that to run almost immediately after placement happens. Or again, in the larger databases too, you have things that are happening based on candidates being added. So they might have that running every hour, and they're capturing candidates that come in every hour, and they're, you know, making sure the CV's been parsed, the job titles here, and the emails here, and that type of thing.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. So the couple of things I wanted to show here, and what's interesting as well with the use of AI, like what you can achieve with AI and Bullhorn is, well, with our products and others in the market is really exciting. But we see from our customers as well, the things that people are doing over and over again are the things you'd expect very obviously to do, like summarizing candidates and writing job adverts. There's, you know, so these processes with something like Kyloe DataTools could just be happening automatically. So rather than a candidate coming to your database and you proactively having to go to that candidate and pressing a button and running a prompt, or take the data out of Bullhorn and do it externally and then bring it back in, this is the type of thing that could just be running for you on a schedule and happening, you know, every hour, every day as the candidates are arriving. Just for the purpose of this, I've obviously locked it to a specific candidate ID so I can just run it. But as an example, you'd press the play button. This is now going to run, and it's going to identify this candidate, and it's going to run this candidate summary prompt based on that information. When it's presented to you in here, it kind of shows you some of the tags and things that you'll see. But if I just go to this candidate, and you can see down the right-hand side, I have these fields that are currently blank. If we wait a couple of seconds and I apply these changes and press yes, that's now going to run. I'm going to update that field. So I've obviously done that just now live on the demo manually, but that could be happening for your team automatically on a schedule. So I'll go into plan. If I refresh, we'll have some data in this field now. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, format.
So you could kind of imagine that happening, as I said, as the candidate's arriving. So your people are arriving, looking at the candidate records that are far more populated and ready to be used.
And standardized. And I think one thing that people forget you get better at doing as you become more experienced or in recruitment is you get better at reading CVs and navigating CVs and navigating extra verbiage that is just waffle to what's the real point. Like you can spot language that tells us they did it versus they were a part of it. You learn that as you go through recruitment, and I don't think there's any lessons. I think you just learn that because you're doing it so often by volume. Actually, we can reduce that learning hump or that learning piece, that learning curve, because if you just had things summarized in the same format like this, so all your rookies are coming in and reading things like that as summaries every single time. It's like you can design it so that they're seeing what you want them to see to then take action from it. So that is the door. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, the door.
Oh no, she's actually just knocked and then disappeared. Sorry about that. I loved it. Go on, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the terms that I use here, as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got Kyle here, one of the new guys has just joined. My goal is to make him useful as quickly as possible. So like you bring someone new into the business, the goal is, especially in the world of sales or recruiting, you want them to be billing and providing money back as quickly as possible. And if you can give them the edge by using things like this, then why not? So this, like we've had feedback too from like your senior people and your top billers. I don't need this, I can do it myself, which is great. You can, and that's brilliant. But there's 20 other people behind you that's trying to catch up, and the business still needs them to make money. So it's about kind of giving everyone that extra foothold and kind of driving more to the business.
Yeah, I agree. So you and the way that's populated there is just for a custom field, custom.
Exactly. Yeah, you can see the mapping up if I just rewind here. You just apply it. It's just I'm saying it because I'm in it the whole time, but it's just a standard data rule, and the fact that you build a criteria on the left to say those are the records I want to change. Then at the top here, this is the Kyloe prompt that I've chosen, and this is that's the field I've chosen, and the bottom is the Kyloe prompt. So if I was to press this new button here, I just choose the field that I want that to go in, and then I choose from the list of available prompts here that I want to run. And I've only got one prompt here, right? I could have something built here that's, obviously I wouldn't choose the same field, but you could be running multiple prompts at the same time. It isn't just a case of one at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And and the AI prompt can look at anything in Bullhorn.
Correct. Yeah, you saw the manager there a second ago, so you can pull data into that prompt from any field, and that includes like your candidate description, so the text is parsed from the CV, or you can look at the file itself. You've got notes. Yeah, everything's available.
Wow. Yeah. So you could have So one of the things that we used to do with an ERP delivery function I used to manage was, because they were constantly sending CVs, right? Or and then when people joined or we had rookies, they'd come to us and be like, they'd start presenting candidates. Be like, "Sorry, I've got this SAP FICO consultant. I think they look good." And you'd be like, "Well, no, come on, present the candidate a little bit better. Like, why are you telling me they look good? Is it how many years, how many end-to-end projects, what niche modules, what's their background, all that sort of stuff." So you could technically have an AI prompt that looks across CV, category skills and notes, and is essentially summarizing that into the internal pitch. So I used to always be like, right, pitch your candidates to me, pitch. Don't just come to me and tell me you got a good candidate, pitch to me. So you could actually create an AI prompt that does that for every single candidate that gets added to the system. And so as soon as they've had a qualification call, or a pre-screen call, as they're called in Bullhorn, that box could be populated with the internal pitch. So again, they don't have to do that themselves. Yeah,
exactly that. So it's again about, I kind of use the term of you're getting that record ready for the people to get to, rather than them having to go there and make it ready. So they're arriving at the candidate, and it's summarized and all that key information there. And then you think about the job record as well. This can run from there. You think about them arriving at the job, and the job description's already there. The published job description's ready to go out. Maybe there's even a social media post ready for them to copy and paste and fire on LinkedIn. All of these things can again just be happening automatically for them.
Yeah.
The couple of other things I wanted to just show, and I realize we're almost on the hour. It's time's flying by. But I just wanted to show other things too, because I think that like what I kind of mentioned at the beginning is that with DataTools about being able to kind of enrich your database from within. So you can see I've got loads of different examples up here. Summary. We've got this option here as well when we're able to kind of search the candidate's environment and look for the record and look for their email. So this is essentially like on the left-hand side, we don't want to be looking at records we don't want to look at. So we're ignoring archiving and it's deleted. We're not going to overwrite something, so we're making sure the email is null and so on. But essentially this rule is running, and this is something you could have running on a schedule automatically, and it's recognized that actually currently that value is null, and we found an email address. So that's just found it from somewhere on that candidate's record, either a note or the CV. So you can see up here, this is the record. This record is currently blank. Again, I would run this, you'd apply, and I'll go and update that field for you. So that same concept can be run across many different things. You can see I've got the phone, I've got job title, even visa status. So again, this is going to run a search here based on what we know about the candidate and the requirements of the prompt. What is their visa status? What do we need to do about them? Now, each of those, as you've seen, are individual prompts that deliver a single output. It isn't always that straightforward, but that doesn't mean it isn't possible.
So by almost sequencing the rules, or thinking of it in the sequence format, but actually in reality, it's just popping off whenever it's happening, I guess.
Exactly.
At the same time, but thinking of it in sequentially, find country, city. If country says this, put in country field. If city, put in city field. Like you can do the lookups.
Correct. Yeah. So it's done in a sequence, and you'd kick them off in line. So you would build this, you press go, set that one off, and then you go and set the next one off. So technically, they will run in a sequence because of the timings that you've set, and then it will go and identify and go. And this is the kind of example that I mean with us using, kind of call it a holding field. Or a filler field, where we kind of update something to then grab that and use it in a secondary rule that then goes and puts it into the correct place. Because you have the challenge with, obviously with generative AI, you're creating text, right? So you can't just go and pick up a piece of text and push that into the country field because it's looking for IDs and sorts of things like this. So we do that a different way by adding that extra step.
Yeah, nice. Do you know what's quite mad about the about DataTools? I reckon people not knowing that products like DataTools exist is part of the reason why they look outside of Bullhorn and look to move away from Bullhorn, because people get to a point where they go, you know, I'll give you an example. I did a job science to Bullhorn move, and it was a 9-year-old job science system, and you had one field that for the first 3 years it was used in one way, and then for the next 3 years it was used a different way, and then for the following 3 years it was also then used a different way. Now, no one knew that because none of us were checking records from 7 years ago. So when it all ended up in Bullhorn, you did have, you know, some of the field data just wasn't right, wasn't accurate, and then all of it doesn't, none of it makes sense. And then you start thinking, oh, well, you try and use automation, and you can't use automation because you can't rely on the field data. And actually, there was like a real grump around it. You know, people were like a year in going, nah, you know, this is rubbish. But actually, with DataTools, you could clean that up yourself. And there are some super sharp ops people internally that I work with, that I sit with every single week, who like would love to have something like this to play around with every single day.
Yeah. And the cool thing about this, right, there's two closing points I'll mention on this, is that one, we have a free version that people can get enabled. It's not free forever. It's generally like a free DataTools Lite trial that you can get enabled, and it will look like this, but on your Bullhorn environment. It's a read-only version. You can build rules like this. You can see what duplicates you truly have. You can change the values. The only thing you can't do is push a button and actually make change to the system, because unfortunately that part isn't free.
Yeah.
But we can do that analysis and actually show you what the problems are and kind of dig into what you need to do to solve that. And the other part is you can do all the changes through our product with the safety of being able to undo everything as well. So if you go and merge a duplicate today in Bullhorn manually, you make a mistake, that's a problem. That involves, I imagine, quite an laborious support ticket queue task that goes through the Bullhorn, and can you fix this problem for me, please? And it's a lot of back and forth. And especially if you go and do something, even through Data Mirror or some sort of SQL Server, or you do something yourself manually, write a piece of code to affect change, untangling that if you make an error is a bit of a challenge. In here, everything you do in product is stored in the history. So you've got duplicate history and data rule history. So duplicate history, if I've merged something and I think that's a problem or a mistake, I just go and press this button and it gets undone.
Yeah, nice.
And likewise, the same scenario with the rule. So if I'm in here and I've just made that change to that company that address rec, and I think actually that's a mistake, I just do this and I undo it, and now that is undone.
Nice. It's just like it literally is just having like a super data, like superpower for data. From I've got 2 clients of mine that I'm going to ask for the free trial for, actually, after this call. Not even after this call. As soon as we stop recording, I'm going to talk to you about it. Yeah, nice. And you were. It was interesting how you worded that. The enrichment part of it, like internal enrichment. Like you've got the data somewhere, sitting in a note, sitting in the transcription, sitting on a CV, sitting on sometimes, you know what, the best place for it is sometimes onboarding docs for contractors. Sometimes you don't have the email and phone number on the record, but where they need to get paid, they've definitely filled in your onboarding sheet or your contractor sheet, so it sits on there. Nice. Cool. I feel like I could just keep you here for a while longer and just keep asking you to show me more stuff, but we have gone past that.
We've not looked. There's so much more. Maybe there's a to be continued at the bottom right hand corner of this episode.
I think we are going to need a part 2. Was there anything you wanted to cover off or say before we wrap up?
No, I guess the only final thing really, if we're talking about the kind of AI components within Kyloe, what I've focused on here is utilizing the AI from within AwesomeDocs and then within DataTools. But what our AI components also give you is access to generative AI as a user right from within Bullhorn. So on every single entity as well, your end user would have the option to go to the entity, simply push a button and be delivered the result with the same access to the data as you have through the scheduled options as well.
Nice. Brilliant. Well, we are almost certainly going to have to do a part 2, I think. Okay, brilliant. I mean, guys, for everyone watching, thank you for watching, obviously, and thank you to Martin for his time. There's clearly more to go look at, so do go get connected with the folks over at Kyloe and Martin. I'll pop in contact details in the description wherever this is being posted and wherever you're watching this. Let me hit end recording so I can speak to Martin about my 2 clients that are going to need the free trial. But yes, thank you for listening, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.